Hey everyone. Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about tapping, something I've talked about quite a lot on this channel already. Sometimes it's referred to as tapping, other times it's referred to as EFT or emotional freedom technique. Okay, so I'll start with talking about some of the history of this, where it comes from, its roots, some kind of gamuts or paths off the original concept, and then we'll go through an actual demo and I'll talk about the benefits as well. So EFT, or emotional freedom technique, actually has its roots starting in the 1970s. Okay, so there's said to be three doctors. I believe one was a chiropractor and one was a counselor. I'm not sure what the other one. Chapman, I think, or Goodhart. But regardless, the counselor found that when he was working with his patients, they were way more receptive and way more productive in terms of working through emotions when they would tap on these points in their body. Okay, so at the time it wasn't called EFT. He did a form of more cognitive work called NLP, neuro lymphatic programming, which is still done today. I know Tony Robbins is a huge proponent of this. It's really effective to work through emotions and blocks, etc. So he was practicing that, and then he introduced this type of thing, and he thought, "Well, this is amazing." So that was some of the roots. And then EFT formally, he combined that with NLP and it formed this thing called emotional freedom technique, which was really like the tapping idea he just brought into this other cognitive stuff he was doing called NLP. So that was in the 1970s. And then in the 90s, the EFT really kind of became a formal thing. I don't know if it was him exactly. I think it was one of his students or apprentices or something, came up with the idea actually of making this EFT thing a real patented thing. So that's where emotional freedom technique came about. So if we just break that down, what actually is it, right? EFT, emotional freedom technique. So emotional, so we're dealing with our emotions. Freedom, good thing. Decrease our emotions, be free of, you could say, negative emotions. And then it's a technique, something you do, right, to make that happen. So really what it is, and what you've probably seen people talk about with this before, a lot of counselors use it, is basically you're tapping on various points on your body and your face. Specifically on your face, a little bit on your trunk depending on the type. Again, there's offshoots off this which are not the typical EFT protocol, but very similar. But basically you're tapping in various points. You got bones in here. Okay, so you're tapping in various points, and by doing that you're stimulating certain energy pathways in the body called meridians, and specifically acupuncture points along those meridians. For those of you who aren't familiar, meridians are energy channels in Chinese medicine that run through the body. So there's acupuncture points along those meridians. If you've had acupuncture before, you know that they put a needle in your skin and basically are impacting these points. And so by tapping on them, it's similar to acupressure, where you're pushing on an acupuncture point, but this is more of a tapping protocol. So you're doing many different things when you're doing this, but when we're tapping on an area on our body, our brain is basically sending a signal from our skin saying something's touching my skin, because we have sensory receptors in our skin. Sensory receptors to pressure, to touch, to changes in temperature. All these are being sensed by our skin and our muscles and our ability to be in space. But when I'm tapping, there's a nerve impulse going back to my brain saying somebody's tapping on my cheek, or I'm feeling a cheek being tapped on. So what that does is it actually interrupts, say you're experiencing anxiety, it actually interrupts that loop that can be produced in the brain in, you could say, a negative sense, where you're ruminating on something over and over. And a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is one of our main fear centers, can get really overactive. So what tapping can do, and it's said to do, and I've experienced it myself to be very effective, is when you tap on an area, it almost doesn't matter where, although I think it's more effective on these specific points. But when you tap there, you're impacting that energy channel, but you're also helping break up that emotional loop, or thought loop, or anxiety loop, stress loop that you might be experiencing. So it can be really effective for working through emotions. I'll talk about some of the main benefits after, but that's one of the big ones. It's very effective for that. And again, I want to disclaimer, I'm not a counselor, so if you're working through deep stuff, please see someone and incorporate this at your own pace because it can bring some stuff up as well. Okay, a little disclaimer there. So that is kind of the protocol, and there's different areas where you tap. I should say that's kind of how it works in my opinion, and from what I've read. Yeah, and so that's kind of the idea behind tapping, is basically go through this protocol, and it also can bring up unconscious and subconscious thoughts and emotions as well, and really get to some root causes of these states as well. So it's very powerful. It looks funny though, because you just see people tapping in their face, right? So one other thing I'll say before I talk about the benefits is that I talked about some offshoots. And so a lady named Donna Eden, she's an energy medicine practitioner, very popular around the world in that field. And her husband, David Feinstein, who's a psychiatrist, I believe a psychiatrist or psychologist. He publishes articles on this, so very scientific side. So it's an interesting merging of very very alternative side with an energy medicine, with a very provable scientific background. And so they wrote a book called Tapping. I'll link it below. It's extremely powerful. It's an awesome book. It uses a lot of the same protocols of this though. So it's similar, but maybe it's obviously not exactly copyrighted, but it's the same idea. So I often go off that protocol, but it's the same kind of idea. And then out of this tapping idea, what's actually come in scientific literature now, and what you'll see is if you go into the research, is there's actually a field of study now called energy psychology. Okay, so this is looking at these energy pathways, these points that you can push on and tap on, and saying, okay, so let's look at the psychological side of I'm feeling this emotion or thinking this thought. And then if I tap on this point, which is said to have this energetic influence, how do these merge together? And so there's actually a scientific field of study now it's developed. It's, I would say, very well not known, but very well not known, but it's a new field emerging kind of around these interesting merging between alternative and allopathic. So that's pretty cool. I think they find this pretty exciting. So they talk a lot about that in that book. So Tapping by Donna and David Feinstein. Okay. So how can this help? Okay. So by doing this tapping protocol, I would say there's 4 main things I wrote down here. So I mentioned the first one. So number 1, it decreases the emotional intensity of something you're feeling right now. So I found that when you're feeling something intense and there's intense emotions coming up and you're in that state, fight or flight, anger, irritation, whatever negative emotion you're experiencing, by doing this tapping protocol, it drastically brings that down and decreases the level of that you're experiencing, which is pretty cool. Number 2, it's really good at breaking fears and phobias. So again, if you're in that really stressful state, it's really good at kind of breaking that in your brain and kind of resetting your brain and really, you would say in science, rewiring your brain or making new neural pathways, neuroplasticity, saying the brain is plastic and able to form and make new pathways. So it's really good at breaking through those phobias. Say you're experiencing fear right now, whatever you're doing or you're experiencing in your life, become aware of it, and then basically just start tapping as you feel that emotion, and you'll feel it drop. It's really pretty amazing. So that's the second one, fears and phobias. Number 3, it increases positive feelings. So it kind of, you could say decreases the negative, increases the positive, but generally speaking, I feel quite better after this by doing it, and that's reported, I believe, by a lot of people around this as well. But try it for yourself, see what you think. I think part of the reason why is it's because it's decreasing that negative feedback loop, fear-based loop in the brain, but it's also going specifically on these acupuncture meridians, which have direct connections to our mood and emotions. Again, that's, that is an alternative view, but it's pretty cool to see it. So just try it out if you want to. Number 4, it decreases stuckness. It helps us move forward if we're stuck. Okay, so kind of the similar idea, but if we're ruminating on something or we just feel like, I don't know what to do right now, I feel really stuck right now, it's a great way to just move forward. And I think, again, it's because it decreases those and switches your brain a little bit, but it really is good for that. If you're in a, say in your afternoon and you're like freaking out because you don't know what to do, or you have too many things to do and not sure what to focus on, this is a really good way to kind of break that and move forward. Okay, so those are the 4 benefits. So let's actually talk what you do practically. So typically there's 10 to 12 different points that you tap on depending on the system. Both Donna Eden and the original EFT talk about these main points. Donna adds a couple more, but I got bones here. I'll show you the ones on the chest. But basically, you tap. I usually sometimes I use 3 fingers like this. They talk about doing like this, Donna, but you want to not go super fast. You want to say like it wants to be, she would say intentional, not just repetitive. So don't just do this without thinking. You want it to be an intentional tap. Okay, so the points are top of the head. So basically you're tapping there, between the eyes, between right on both sets of eyes on the side, like kind of the bone on the side, and then under the bone, under the eyes on that bone. That's your stomach meridian, the stomach meridian point. And then under the nose. So you can even here, you can just use your, sorry bird. You can even use the your middle finger. And then under your chin, around your chin. And then your clavicles. So if here's your sternum, here's your collarbone. So you want to find the spot, kind of the soft spot between. So if you just go along your clavicle until you feel a notch in the middle, and then go down, that's your sternum, and just go to the side. There's a soft spot in both. Kind of a soft spot between the ribs, like that, right there. Okay? So tapping there. I usually cross my hands. Okay? And then tapping on the chest, sternum, and then the sides of the body, kind of like bra height, almost 4 inches down from the armpit, kind of right along here. Okay, so I just do this, basically. And then if you want, you can add in, EFT doesn't add this next one, but you can add in kind of, if you're just standing, tapping the sides of your thigh, okay, the sides of your leg. And then both systems use this one, sides of the hands. It's a great one for decision making, or if you're kind of stuck and feel scattered. And then right between the 4th and the 5th bone, there. And then this side, same thing. That's for your immune system, triple warmer, it's called in Chinese medicine. Okay, and then right kind of where your pec muscles are, your chest muscles. So turn bones here. Okay, so you'd have a muscle right here, your pec, right? And here's your shoulder. Okay, so your shoulder. So kind of right in the groove, right in here is where you want to tap. Doesn't matter exactly, but you're getting more benefit if you go right on the point. So right there. Okay. Now, the important thing, we're going to go through this in a second. This is getting long, but we're going to go through one of these. So what you want to do also, both systems talk about this. So as you're tapping, as I said, you can either just think of the stressful thing or the thing that's bugging you, or you can actually say a phrase. And like, I think it's more effective if you say the phrase or just say a word around it. But they call it a reminder phrase and an acceptance phrase or acceptance statement. So something like this. So the reminder phrase would be, even though I feel anxious. Even though I feel anxious is a reminder phrase. So as you're tapping, you're saying, even though I feel anxious, 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 as you're tapping on the points. Okay? The acceptance phrase is accept like it sounds. So the one they often use is, I love and accept myself completely. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can say, and this is where the systems differ a bit. I don't think it matters that much. Don't worry about the details, to be honest. But as you tap, you can say the whole thing. So even though I feel anxious right now, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I feel anxious right now, I love and accept myself completely. Even though I feel anxious right now, right? You do it that way. I often just kind of feel what I'm feeling and tap away and it gets better. So that's interesting. Or you can just say anxious, or name the thing you're anxious about. Maybe going to school tomorrow presentation. That was a big one for me. Going to school presentation, going to school tomorrow presentation, going to school tomorrow presentation. Or just think of it, presentation. And you'll see that decrease, okay? And And there's slight differences in the systems when you say certain things. Donna adds some more things in, but that's the general idea. That's enough to see some results, in my opinion. For both of these systems, what you want to do when you start, as we'll go through in a second, is you want to, on a scale of 0 to 10, say the intensity of what you're feeling. So 10 being like the most intense, right? I'm crazy anxious right now, right? 0 being none. And then you can go through it once and then rate it again. Go through the tapping points again, rate it again. You want to get as low as you can. And you'll just feel that. Oftentimes I just do it once and I'm like, wow, I feel a lot better, and kind of go on with my day. Okay, so let's try this, for example. We'll do the one we just did. So I'll say, we'll use the anxious example, but think of something right now that if you're in a state right now or something that's bugging you or is annoyed or it's just on your mind, think of that thing. And on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, rate the intensity. 10 being like insane, you can't focus, just wild. So name that number, okay? So for me right now, I feel like maybe a 3 or 4 anxiety-wise. Like there's things I got to do right now, but that's probably where I'd stand. Okay? So, and then say to yourself, even though I feel blank, I love and accept myself completely. You might not even believe that fully, but just say it. Or you can say, I'm going to do this anyway. It is best if you mean the statement. So even though I feel anxious, I'm going to do this tapping protocol anyway. Something like that. Okay. Love and accept is powerful, but it doesn't really matter too much. So as we tap, we're just going to say the thing that's bugging you. I'm just going to say anxious. Let's say the thing as we tap. Okay. So here we go. Top of the head. Anxious, anxious, anxious. Between the eyes. Anxious, anxious, anxious. Side bone beside the eyes. Anxious, anxious, anxious. Under the eyes. Anxious, anxious, anxious. Under the nose. Anxious, anxious, anxious. Chin. Anxious, anxious, anxious. And clavicle spot, soft spot. Anxious, anxious, anxious. Sternum. Anxious. Side of the ribs. Hands straight down side of the legs. Side of the hands. 4th and 5th bone between. Other side. And then soft spot in the chest and the sides. Okay. Now rate it again. How do you feel? I feel slightly better, but I'm also thinking what I'm doing and a lot of things going on, so just a little bit, but slightly. Okay. So then you can do that again, but that's tapping, and it's I can't tell you how effective it is to process emotions and move through stuff. It really is powerful. Versus getting in your head and trying to analyze it, or even going outside and grounding, getting on the bare feet. It takes time. Tapping is just quick. It's a very fast way. I might do a video on my morning routine, which breaks down kind of some of the stuff that I do and really can shift your state fast. But that's tapping. I hope that helps. I hope that was informative. And yes, have a good day, guys.